Tick gets a look at his dad's past and starts to understand why he was so hard on him. Letty gets yet another badass moment as she walks through explosions without even looking back, and Hippolyta goes full Orinthia blue. We also find out that the Lovecraft Country timeline is deterministic, which means what happened always happened and time travel can't change anything. Or can it? Hey everyone, I'm Brent the Middleman, your middle-aged middle manager in Middle America, here today with a video about one of the most awesome episodes of television I have seen, well, since I watched The Boys Season 2 finale last week. But these two shows could not be more different, and the episodes were awesome for totally different reasons. Lovecraft Country beautifully balances magic, monsters, and social issues that still resonate today, and this episode had all of that and more, which I can't wait to break down for you right now. The episode begins right where the last episode left off, with Diana slowly turning into a dancing demon girl, just like Topsy and Bopsy, who were chasing her last episode. Topsy and Bopsy, which came from the cover of the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, are evil versions of what are called pickaninnies, which were caricatures of black children that were used for way too long in the US. The image is extremely offensive and is just another reminder that racism is the true monster in the show and in the real world. Ruby asks Christina to save Diana, and Christina says she needs the bodily fluids of the person who placed the curse. Letty tells Christina that that's not possible because Captain Lancaster was killed in a gas explosion at her house. Christina seems to buy this, but we know the real story is that racist Captain Lancaster is Shoggoth poop right now. It's odd that Christina doesn't know about the Shoggoth. That means Tick's protector Shoggoth is different than the ones we saw in episodes 1 and 2 in Ardham that seemed to be under Christina's control. She even helped one be born, remember? Aw, it's so cute. Since Lancaster is dead, all Christina can do is cast a restorative spell which will only reset the curse but not cure her. Christina also says that she will only do it if Tick comes to Ardham willingly on the autumnal equinox, and he agrees, but more on that in just a minute. In order to complete the spell and buy them more time, Christina says they need the blood of her closest relative. This leads to Montrose telling Tick that he might be George's son because Montrose knows that Tick may actually be her closest relative and not him. Obviously, Tick is upset by this, saying he had always wished George was his father instead. This all ends up being a moot point though because Hippolyta returns from her 200-year adventure. Christina uses Hippolyta's blood and restores Diana, but says they only have 24 hours until the spell wears off. Let the ticking clock begin. Hippolyta tells them that they can use the portal in the observatory to travel back to 1921 to see if Tick's great-grandmother still has the Book of Names, as she was the last known person with it. Tick thinks the portal is broken, but Hippolyta feels comfortable she can fix it. This is definitely not the same Hippolyta we have seen in previous episodes. Her travels have changed her. So Tick, Letty, Montrose, and Hippolyta take Diana on the 6-hour drive to the observatory, hoping they can complete their mission in time to save Dee. Meanwhile, Ruby goes with Christina back to her magic mansion and asks about the white lady whose body she has been, borrowing. Christina tells her that she was the groundskeeper at her father's mansion and that Letty is the one who put her in a coma when she bashed her with a shovel. Ruby then seems to turn off the lady's life support system, saying she always pictured herself as a redhead. This made me think that Ruby is going to try to find a white woman with red hair to kidnap and trap in the basement so she can steal her body. Just another step in Ruby's heel turn. It started last episode when she admitted she didn't really care that much that Bobo had died, and now she seems to be getting a taste for the power magic gives her. She also doesn't even really seem to care when Christina admits that the eternal life spell she plans to cast may kill Tick. Ruby does make Christina promise that the spell won't hurt Letty or the baby, however, because killing the baby's father won't hurt them at all. It looks like Ruby may be the big bad of season 2 if something happens to Christina in the finale. Oh, and about that spell, we know she plans to do it on the autumnal equinox, and that is where and when Ji-Ah saw Tick dying in her sex vision. The autumnal equinox is one of 2 moments in a year when the sun is exactly above the equator, and day and night are exactly the same length. Yep, sounds pretty magical. Speaking of magic, Christina transforms into William and goes to pay a visit to Captain Lancaster's lodge, where she seems unsurprised to see the racist cop back to life. Lancaster isn't looking so good, however, and we get to see what was going on with his skin and why he needed cologne. Lancaster has been extending his life by sewing his head onto black men's bodies. We even hear his deputy say it would be tough to get another black guy, but he was a little less polite about it. As the magic keeping him together wears off, it starts to smell because the body is decomposing. That is why Diana talked about how bad it stunk in there when she went to visit. It also explains why he had a guy who was all stitched up in the closet. He was torturing him and using him for spare parts. Say what you will, but Lancaster knew how to work smarter, not harder. But it seems this time the spell won't stick because of the rune stone Christina had Ruby place in the desk drawer. This actually causes Captain Lancaster to die, while William Christina gets to watch, which seemed to be her plan this whole time, revenge for William. This also confirms why Lancaster knew the crazy doctor who owned Letty's house and who was doing awful experiments on black people in the basement. Good riddance. Finally, we head over to the observatory where Tick and Hippolyta are working on fixing the portal. Well, Hippolyta is fixing it. Tick is just trying not to electrocute himself. Oh, and Montrose is hitting the moonshine hard. He seems really nervous about what they're about to do, and we soon find out why. They get the machine working, but the portal is flashing too quickly, so Hippolyta uses the implants in her arms to become a literal motherboard, and she is able to stabilize the portal, holding it open on Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. Tick, Letty, and Montrose jump through the portal into the Stratford Hotel. The Stratford was an upscale hotel near Black Wall Street in Tulsa that was burned down in the Tulsa Race Massacre. The massacre took place over a 14-hour period from May 31st to June 1st, 1921, and left the entire area decimated. Dozens of people were killed that we know of, with hundreds injured and thousands left homeless. Most of the segregated black district known as Greenwood, where Tick and Montrose's relatives live, was destroyed. Before this happened, the Greenwood area of Tulsa was a thriving and affluent black district. Greenwood Avenue had even earned the nickname Black Wall Street because of all the super successful black-owned businesses. In addition to the Stratford Hotel, we also hear Montrose reference Dr. A.C. Jackson, a highly respected black surgeon who was the most prominent citizen killed during the riots. His white neighbors reported seeing Dr. Jackson raise his hands to surrender to a group of white men, but they shot him anyway. The massacre was set off by an article in the paper about the police arresting a black suspect in the attack of a young white woman in an elevator. But most historians feel that the man was falsely arrested and the woman named in the article never even pressed charges. But a white mob used this as an opportunity to loot and burn down the black-owned businesses, with planes dropping firebombs that we see Letty walking through down Greenwood Avenue back to the Stratford Hotel. I also wanted to point out that the Tulsa Race Massacre was used for the plot of another awesome HBO series, Watchmen. If somehow you are watching Lovecraft Country but you haven't seen Watchmen, then start streaming it right after you finish my video because it's great. I am really happy that this event is being given the attention it deserves as one of the darkest moments in American history. I am middle-aged, as you know from my intro, a college graduate and a history buff, and I had no awareness of what happened in Tulsa. I know it's cliche, but we need to understand everything that has happened in the past so we can be careful not to repeat it. Especially with racial tensions as high as they are right now, we need to know how bad things can really get, so we hopefully wise up and start treating everyone with the same dignity with which we would treat our own family. Speaking of family, Tick and the gang put on some period clothes and try to blend in, but Letty didn't have a chance to change shoes. Their plan is to enter Tick's great-grandmother's home and find the book of names that his relative took from the burning home of Titus Braithwaite. When they find the house, they see Montrose's father beating him with a switch, which is a stick or a branch, because he caught Montrose wearing George's prom jacket and putting the corsage flower in his hair. We see young George just standing there watching his brother get beat, which Dora, Tick's mom, later yells at him about. We saw earlier in the season George tell Tick not to get involved when Letty was arguing with her brother, showing us that he has avoided confrontation his whole life. Montrose defends George, who we will later see tries to help Montrose. It is this upcoming event that leads Montrose to sneak off, so Letty and Tick have to split up. Tick is going after his dad, and Letty is going for the Book of Names. Tick catches up to Montrose by the town square, where Montrose is watching his younger self talking to another boy his age. Montrose tells Tick he had feelings for this boy, but fresh off a beating from his dad, he goes to tell him that he can't see him anymore because he is gay. Well, he uses a much harsher word, but you get the idea. Montrose confesses to Tick that he had to hide away the softer side of himself, the gay side, so that he could survive in America in the mid-20th century, and so that he could be Tick's father, even if he wasn't his father biologically. As they are standing there, we hear gunshots as the massacre is starting. Montrose knows that this friend is about to get shot, but Tick hugs him so he can't interfere, because if something happens to younger Montrose, then Tick will never be born. The white men show up and pull guns on the two young black men. Montrose's friend is shot in the head, and they are about to kill Montrose when George and Dora show up to help him. Montrose starts to recall the moment to Tick when he says something that gives Tick crazy deja vu. He says a mysterious stranger showed up with a baseball bat and started teeing off on the rioters like Jackie Robinson, and at the end he looked at Montrose and said, "I gotcha, kid." This is exactly what Jackie Robinson said to Tick in his dream, which is the opening sequence of the series, except Jackie Robinson bashed a Cthulhu, not white looters. Tick realizes that this isn't the first time they have been in the past, and as viewers, we know they are in a time loop where what happened always happened. Just as we all realize what is going on, Tick finds a baseball bat at his feet. And unlike Uncle George, Tick runs right into the conflict and starts bashing some racist heads. We even see him hit a white woman who is there participating. After he is done, Tick looks at young Montrose and says, "I gotcha, kid." A really cool moment tying the beginning of the show to the end of the second to last episode. This could also show us Tick saving Montrose all those years ago, so perhaps Montrose can save Tick from Christina in the final episode. We shall see. Also, if they are able to change time in any way, then maybe this is a good way to bring back Uncle George. Probably not, but I hope. Meanwhile, Letty is waiting for a chance to get into the house when she is chased by white rioters. She runs into the house and is protected by Tick's family. We get a quick shot of Tick's great-grandmother noticing Letty's shoes, which comes back later. Letty then runs around the house looking for the Book of Names before it is burned down and everyone is killed. Tick's great-grandmother catches her and holds a gun on her, saying she has never seen shoes like that before. Letty decides to tell the truth, that she is from the future and she is there for the Book of Names in order to save Tick and his unborn son. At first, great-grandma plays dumb about the book, but when Letty draws a picture of her birthmark, she realizes she should help her. She opens a safe in the wall and pulls out the book, but just then a firebomb comes through the window, trapping them in the room. What follows is a very emotional and well-shot scene where we see Great-Granny realize she is going to die, but that because of the book, her family line will live on. She says, "When my great-grandson is born, he will be my faith turned flesh." Letty holds her hands while she burns alive, and Letty is unharmed because of the invulnerability spell Christina put on her and the baby. Christina put the spell on Letty and not Tick because she knew Tick would need to be sacrificed to get eternal life. But Christina did not realize that by putting the spell on Letty, she allowed her to get the full Book of Names, which will probably lead to Christina's downfall in the finale, just as we saw her father's dreams literally smashed in episode 2. While the fire is burning around them, we hear civil rights poet and activist Sonia Sanchez reciting her poem Catch the Fire, with the lines, "Where is your fire? You got to find it and pass it on. You got to find it and pass it on, from you to me to her, from her to him, from the son to the father, from the brother to the sister, from the daughter to the mother, from the mother to the child." The poem captures the moment perfectly, the passing of a family legacy from one to the other, and not just the Book of Names, the memory of what they went through to keep the family line alive, the sacrifices of the past so that there can be a future. This is capped off by Letty walking down the street while planes drop firebombs around her. Yes, she probably could have moved a little faster, knowing they have to get back to the portal, but she just witnessed people burning alive to save her and her unborn child, so I'll cut her some slack. Tick makes it back to the observatory first and sees that Hippolyta is struggling to keep the portal open. He yells at her, encouraging her to keep fighting. She then starts to float into the air, Her eyes go white and her hair turns blue. She is literally transforming into Diana's comic book character, Orinthia Blue. Hippolyta used her power to name herself anything, and in this moment she named herself the hero of her daughter's comic, and she used that power to keep the portal open so Letty and Montrose could get back with the book. The episode ends with them all exhausted in the observatory. I don't know if Hippolyta will be the same after this, but it was her mind and her power that saved her daughter. The finale is next, and we know that Tick must go to Ardham willingly for the autumnal equinox and for Christina's ceremony that she hopes will grant her eternal life. We know that when people go for this, it usually ends badly, so we will see if Christina is different. My prediction is some combination of Montrose and Ji-Ah, the Fox Lady, will help to save Tick and prevent Christina from obtaining her goal. Ruby may even witness them killing Christina, which will push her completely over to the dark side, but we shall see. Also, if this takes place where George died, maybe there's a chance they can bring him back for season 2. I do really miss Uncle George, if you can't tell. As always, I'd love to read your theories and thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my Lovecraft Country breakdowns. I'll be doing videos between seasons too. And if you're enjoying my videos, please hit that like button to help me with the mysterious YouTube algorithm. Once again, I'm Brent the Middleman. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.